Alright, I want to break down the final fight featuring the muscles from Brussels, Jean-Claude Van Damme, and the beast from the East, Bolo Yeung. That's right, Frank Dux versus Chung Lee for the age-old battle of Kumite supremacy in Bloodsport. And right off the bat, our boy Frank kicks things into gear with a high-class bow to Chung Lee because he's a good shit. Even though 24 hours ago, Chung Lee was flipping face pancakes with his buddy Jackson's mug with a spatula named his foot. But sportsmanship isn't for a guy like Chung Lee, who in the last fight committed chiropractic manslaughter. So instead, he flexes his milk duds before he blows a disrespectful snot rocket from his congestion cannon. And if you see someone do this right before a fight, be aware that he's planning on donating your frontal lobe to the third row. The fight starts and Frank is not wasting any time with a "what's the bottom of my foot smell like" roundhouse kick. This catches Chung Lee off guard and is forced to grab the ref like a lifeline before he's using him as a human meat shield. But Frank only saw him as that front yard trampoline your neighbor never uses and lets the intrusive thoughts win. So he does a spinal spring thunder kick right off the ref, and yeah, that's a shattered sternum. Now the ref is in the position called the blue screen kneel. This is reserved for when the spine pops so hard it prolapses your inner ear, causing your brain to fatally err. You freeze during the brain reset, shocked at the fact that you didn't feel an ounce of pain, but an overwhelming sense that your bowels let loose and you briefly saw Jesus. Frank picks up the ref like, "Hey, sorry for borrowing your spine, but also welcome to the highlight reel." The ref shakes it off, no harm, no foul, and thank God he chose to wear his brown gi today. Chung Lee dusts off the sternum bits like it ain't no thing, and he already grew another one, and if you have an older brother and you saw him do this after you kicked him in the chest, chances of him ramming his fist through your face like you're the T-1000 when your mom's not looking has increased by 150%. And when he sees this, Frank pisses himself a little bit because the ref ramp rocket kick was the best he had, and now he's got to think of new creative ways not to die. So he throws roughly 62 telegraphed kicks like they came with their own 5-day forecast. And no block, no dodge, just Chung Lee taking it all and saying, "Thanks for the summer breeze, pal," before punting a gale force wind out of Frank's lungs so hard they filed for FEMA relief. And this is where everyone gets overconfident because Chung Lee is like, there is no way air is returning to this guy's lungs before we terraform Mars. Frank gives him a twirl and hurl to the boob bone again, and yeah, that's Chung Lee's lunch of some other guy's raw liver on a return trip, and before he knows it, his face is caught in a single foot slaughter pendulum combo. And things are looking good for Frank, and oh yeah, that's a lung buster followed by an orbital fister before getting the left-legged bend over and takes flight on the one-armed ejaculator courtesy of Chung Lee Airways. Now Skywalker syndrome has set in for Chung Lee, who made the mistake of tossing Frank to the high ground and nonchalantly walks to the lowest point of the world's biggest adjustable mattress. Frank tries to shoot force lightning from his fingertips, but quickly realizes he looks like a dork and hopes Janice didn't notice, so he switches his stance before giving Chung Lee the Sith Summit Smasher. And this has Chung Lee wondering if he just kicked his thoughts into alphabet soup, so he slaps his head until his brain roughly spells kill again. And this is a look of a man who says, "I'm not going to kick and punch you anymore, but instead I'm going to dive through your chest like Greg Louganis and eat your heart." But Frank is like, "Hey man, you just mentioned Louganis and I'm not about to get into a T-cell tango with you, so instead I'll do a flying overcooked spaghetti spin over you, unhinge my leg from my hip, and kick you in the eye with my wiggle nugget." And this is all followed by a series of blows, pushing all the right buttons on Chung Lee, leaving him in a stiff, hardened state as Frank bobs up and down his body, leaving no inch unexplored, and ending in a climactic foot job putting Chung Lee in the pounded pride position. And now Chung Lee knows he's lost, he's spent. Clearly dehydrated, Chung Lee produces a milky white hallucinogenic powder from his crotch, and does the dick move of throwing it into Frank's eyes, instantly burning them, or what girls on OnlyFans refers to as a bad day. And it's clear that Chung Lee is on this weird stack of roids that also consists of bath salts, so it sends Frank's consciousness straight into the multiverse. And this is where things get really sketchy for Frank because he doesn't know which fight he's really having. He throws a right hand that tries to punch Abraham Lincoln's ghost right in the dick, right before he gets log cabined right in the chest. And now Chung Lee is totally taking advantage of the fact that Frank is in a spiritual civil war, so he gives him the Fort Sumter liver splitter right into a gallbladder emancipator, ending with a proclamating brain smasher. Frank is in real trouble because now he's peaking. Our man is tripping down a bottomless hole named Glitchgape right now, and he's wondering when did his hands download teeth. He wants to show the crowd, but realizes they've all become various forms of Earthworm Jim, and they're descending on him. Now this is a scream of a man who's breaking through the fourth dimensional wall, where he can now witness his birth, life, and death within a single moment. He's not exactly the god, but a god. And right now the Jesus Christ of the Kumite has arrived, and he's blocking punches like Judas trying to return his silver. And Chung-Li realizes whose playground he's on, because now he's taking a ride on the Frankie go-round. And then lastly, Frank tells Chung-Li he better head for the attic because a series of hurricane kicks are overhead, but it's too late. Chung-Li's basement is flooded with mud. As Chung-Li's humiliating defeat and the sweet stench of victory fills the air, everyone loses their mind and explodes in a frenzy, including Ghost Dog. Frank wins the do-rag of Kumite supremacy, the ladies are impressed, and it's one for the history books. Kumite over, movie over, roll credits, Bloodsport, one of the greatest movies ever made.